Good news can often get overlooked or buried by the negative in our everyday lives. So let's change that. I'm Adriana.
And I'm Wyatt.
We're just two ordinary people without any special qualifications or anything trying to navigate life. We invite you to join us as we share wholesome stories, news articles of hope, and ideas about how we can all make the world just a little bit brighter. We are uplifting positive stories. Welcome back to another episode of Uplifting Positive Stories. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah, hopefully everybody's summer is going well now that we're a little bit into it now.
Yeah.
Almost approaching July, not quite halfway yet, though.
We've been able to walk our dogs out. We have a really pretty lake walk by the lake. It's been nice being able to do that. And now the weather's a little warmer and nicer.
Sometimes it's warm. Sometimes it's not right now. It's been a weird summer.
It has so far, but it has been
good.
nice when it's been warm. Anyways, our topic for today is all about engaging with others. And so taking those opportunities to get out and talk to people and spend time with people maybe that we wouldn't normally. I know we talk about this kind of thing a lot on this podcast, but I think it's a really important thing. We sometimes feel isolated in this world where there's so much social media, and yet in person or over the phone stuff is very rare. So making sure that we still go out and engage with others is really, really important to fighting that feeling of being alone. And yeah, so I think it's an important topic. All right.
Easier said than done.
Easier said than done in this day and age. That is true. So our first story here today comes from the subreddit Heartwarming, and it is titled, "What Am I Gonna Do With These Kids?" Here we go.
Kids like little kids or, adults who are just younger than you and you refer to them as kids because all your awards or whatever.
I don't know. We'll find out. I'm a guy. I don't have kids. I don't particularly like kids. I mean, I like some kids, my friends' kids, but not in general. My close friend is dating this guy. They eventually got married. I walked her down the aisle when they eloped in Vegas. But at the time, they were dating, but serious. He calls me kind of frantic. His daughter was 9 at the time and she was on a playdate with her friends. The family they were with was leaving that afternoon on a trip and had to be at the airport at a certain time. Meanwhile, my friends were returning from a ski trip and traffic was massively snarled, so they were going to be 2 to 3 hours late. He knew his daughter and I got along well. She was a delightful young lady. So could I watch her for a few hours? Oh, and 2 of her friends. 3 9-year-olds? Aw, geez, what the heck? I really didn't want to, but it wouldn't kill me, so I reluctantly agreed. I picked the kids up. I have never met the other 2 kids or their parents, so I'm definitely not taking them to my small apartment. I figure the parents will be more comfortable if I keep the kids out in public. So we run some errands.
Observant.
I'm a science nerd, so at the car wash, I explained the chemistry of soap. The grocery store, where I explain why milk is pasteurized, etc. For 3 hours, I'm explaining everything from why plants are green to why the sky is blue. The girls are engaged, asking a ton of questions, and I'm having the time of my life. My friends get back, and I deliver the kids to his house. He apologizes and thanks me, and one of the kids pipes up with something along the lines of, "We had an awesome time. We went to a bunch of places, and he knew about all kinds of stuff." The dad offered to reimburse me for taking the kids to lunch. Dude, I should pay you. I had so much fun. 6 years later, I was pushing a stroller containing their first 2 of an eventual 3 kids, born 10 months apart. I guess I'm not so bad at dealing with kids. Yeah.
Well, it depends on the kids, and it sounds like he must be a good presenter.
Yes.
Because it helps that I feel like 9's a pretty curious age where they
Yes.
find that like new facts interesting. But if you present it very monotone, like the sky is blue because of this is then it's like a boring school experience. But like making it a fun, engaging way, like while you're out in the world, it sounds like it worked, and I'm assuming that's what he must have done. Yeah,
I think it's a really cool way of engaging with them, and the way that worked for him, because you know he probably was not a type of person that's like, I want to go out and, I don't know, put on Bluey and watch Bluey with them or something. I don't know. Like, that's probably not his thing. And so he met them in a way that he thought worked for him, that he enjoyed doing, and that also worked for them. And then he had a great time too.
But also created a unique experience for them. Because again, you could have just made you throw on Bluey or some other show.
True.
That's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But you could do that on your own anytime.
Right. And he taught them a bunch of cool facts that they'll probably remember now. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, I know why things are pasteurized. Or you know what I mean?
Or
like interesting facts.
They'll randomly bring up in like 10, 20 years, like, why do I know that?
Why do I know that fact?
Like unlock this old memory nugget of a fact.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I just thought that was a cool story and fun way to kind of start off the episode. All right, on to our next story here. This one is from the subreddit Ask Reddit, and it is titled, "What is the nicest thing people have ever done for you?" And this is what someone responded. In my mid-20s, I adopted my first dog on my own. I was called to a boardroom in HR soon after, and I was nervous, thinking I was in trouble. As I entered the boardroom, it was a puppy baby shower with decorations, foods, and gifts to celebrate and help me get it started with the dog. My coworkers / friends set it up for me. I was so touched, especially as I was not planning on ever having kids and thought I'd never even have one. I'm still in touch 25 years later with a couple of them. Isn't that a cool way of, I don't know. I thought that was really
It depends
neat.
on the crowd, depends on the office space, but it sounds like it was a good one.
I think that's really cool. And like they were like, oh, there's their first puppy, because that is a big thing to undertake when it's your first puppy, especially if you're living on your own, trying to take care of them and stuff. So I thought that was a really cool way of engaging with them and, having a fun thing for them that meant a lot to them.
And who doesn't love puppies?
Exactly. And I think a puppy
Total
shower
question.
is
There are people out
adorable with like gifts for like with like dog treats and dog stuff. I think that's so cute. Such a fun idea.
A wedding we filmed recently had dog treats as like party favors at the wedding.
It was super cute.
In honor of their dog.
Yeah, super, super cute. So I thought that was kind of cool. All right, on to our next post here. This one comes from the subreddit Ask Reddit. And the question was, what are random acts of kindness you have done? And someone responded with this. I work at a local movie theater in the box office. One day,
Respect.
Yeah, we used to do that.
Represent.
One day, a middle-aged father came up to buy tickets for Maleficent for himself and kids. One of the kids, as far as I could tell, had a subtle mental development difference or a social thing. The kid must have been younger than 12, and he was really excited about watching the movie. He asked me, "Where is everybody? Is the movie good? Will I get scared? Is Maleficent pretty? Can you tell me what happens in the movie?" I made eye contact with the father with a smile, and I turned to the boy to answer his questions happily. I said things like, "Everybody else went to a movie that started earlier, but there are a few people here to see Maleficent too. I saw the movie twice already, and I really liked it. Everything looked very pretty, including Maleficent. There's one part that could be scary, but it's not so bad if you like fantasy movies. I wouldn't worry too much, okay? And silly, I can't tell you what happens in the movie or you wouldn't want to see it." The look in his father's eyes as I talked with his son, who was incredibly happy by the time he got his ticket, for a good 5 to 10 minutes made my day. The people behind him in line were not bothered that they had to wait a bit longer to get their tickets. A few days later, I am on shift again, and the same guy with the son happened to come in again. He, the son, was so happy to see me and remembered my name, running up to the box office to ask if I had seen How to Train Your Dragon 2, and the same follow-up questions as last time. Needless to say,
so good.
Needless to say, the father shook my hand as a personalized hello and simultaneous thank you. Sometimes I really love my service-based jobs if it means I can make people exceptionally happy. Yeah.
Developing a regular relationship there.
Yeah, I think that's so awesome to do, especially if you are working in customer service and have that opportunity to do that. Engaging when someone seems like they really want to talk to you, I think that can be really, really awesome. And clearly this situation, led to the kid really opening up and wanting to talk every time they came in, which is also super great. So yeah, super cool.
Hope you left out an important detail though. Did the kid like the movie?
Right? I want to know. I'm just kidding.
Or is he just very much focused on the next experience?
Yeah, I just think it's really cool.
I've never seen Maleficent.
You haven't?
Not in its full, no.
We'll have to watch it. It's a good movie. It's
seen How to Train Your Dragon 2.
That's also a
obviously
good
based
movie.
off my reaction to that part of the story.
It's a good movie. I think the live action one's out now, right, too?
It is, yep.
All right. On to our next post here. This one comes from Ask Reddit, and the question was, what is the nicest thing you've done? This is a cool story. Someone said, it was New Year's Eve, my freshman year of college, and I went to my buddy's school to celebrate. He had an apartment. I decided I wanted to go out to get a bite to eat before the festivities began. Walk across the street to the McDonald's and buy a hamburger. As I was waiting for my meal, I see a man, clearly homeless, walking around looking upset. Everyone was clearly excited for their respective parties, but this man clearly had nobody to celebrate with and no money. Just came to McDonald's to be around people, I assume. Well, I decided it was time to do something. I bought the guy a meal and walked over and asked if I could join him for dinner. His eyes lit up. Ended up sitting with him for over an hour just chatting and keeping him company as he slowly ate. As he got up to leave, his eyes misted over. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening was all he could muster. As I found myself tearing up, I gave him my last $20, told him to take care, and if he needed a place to stay, please give me a call after I gave him my number. Doesn't seem like much, but it was the highlight of my year, making a lonely man so happy. Yeah. That's a really cool story.
Just treating him like a human being and engaging like a human being.
Right, yeah. And
treating
just
with
talking
decency.
with him. Yeah. It's so cool when you can do that. And just because a lot of times from what I've heard, people that are unhoused tend to feel very looked down upon by society. Like people try to avoid eye contact and stuff and don't want to talk with them. And so just to like make that extra step and like talk with them and get to know them a little bit and ask questions and stuff, if they're open to it. Not everybody is, obviously, but I mean, that can really mean a lot to somebody from what I've heard. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. And on New Year's Eve too. So that's really,
I missed that detail.
Yeah, it was New Year's Eve. That's how he spent his New Year's Eve. I'm like, that's really, really cool. All right, on to our next story here. This one comes from the subreddit Random Acts of Kindness, and it is titled, "This is a follow-up about the lady in the restroom that the OP said hello to. The lady took her hands and thanked her. It had been a long time since anybody had spoken to her. I had responded that I say good day to everyone that I pass by, and in the service industry, I always wish them to have a great day. Today, while waiting in the parking lot, waiting for my roommate, a very elderly woman pulled up next to me and she rolled down her window and said, 'Don't worry, I wasn't going to hit you. I asked if she needed help.' I think today we automatically assume the elderly need help or maybe their thought process is impaired. Anne replied, no, she gave me her name. She stated she had something for me that she thought that I would get a kick out of and would bring me a smile. She handed me what appeared to be a greeting card. I thanked her as she pulled away and she said, 'Enjoy the laugh and have a great day.' It was a greeting card that was handwritten and decorated with a funny joke inside. It's true, things go full circle. Anne, I would say, was about 75 to 80 years old, going around brightening people's day. When I take it down from my display, I think I will put it in my memento box."
What does the card say?
I didn't say what the joke was, but it had a joke in it and stuff, and she had decorated herself. So this old lady, was making little greeting cards with jokes and just passing them out randomly through her window of her car to people in parking lots. I think that's such a cool idea, and I don't know, just brings a little smile to people's faces and a way to engage in a fun way. I don't know. I think it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a small thing.
It's a small thing, but I think that's super cool. So, yeah. All right, on to our last little Reddit story here. This one's just a short one. I thought it was cute. Okay, here we go. This story comes from the subreddit Benign Existence, and it is titled, "My Kids Are Nerds." Recently, my kids, 11 female and 8 male, have started playing a Lord of the Rings trivia game.
Nice.
Which consists of my daughter asking hard questions from the Silmarillion.
Ooh, less nice. I don't know that one so well. That's a little bit of a tougher sell.
She's 11. And my son
11? Oh my God.
And my son doing his best to answer them. This morning, they're eating Sunday pancakes with 11 females' friend who slept over to celebrate 11 females' birthday. For the past half hour, they've been drinking tea and playing Lord of the Rings trivia, and the friend has mixed in some Harry Potter trivia. My 8-year-old male is better at Harry Potter trivia, so this works out for him. If you get the answer wrong, you get shot with a puff of air from an unloaded Nerf gun. I'm just washing dishes and cleaning the kitchen, eavesdropping and feeling the cockles of my little heart getting warmer and warmer. You know what they're not talking about? Celebrities, crushes, TikTok, TV shows, clothes, makeup, hair. I love these kids, including their friend. I hope they don't change too much as they get older.
You had me until it was a similarity. That's not Lord of the Rings trivia. That's a whole other level of
extra hard.
I'm really good at Lord of the Rings
level.
Trivia. I haven't read this.
They're real big fans. Real big fans.
It's like a lore book.
But yeah, I just think that's so awesome. And like, you know, and then they try to, make it fun for the person who came over by mixing in Harry Potter trivia so she had an equal shot, I think that's really fun.
Well, that's fun. That's a fun addition.
Really sweet, showing their interest and stuff, but like making it fun for everybody involved. I think that's really cool. So just very sweet. Our next story comes from the subreddit Best of Redditor Updates, and it is titled, "Waited on a Bus of 110 Children." This was originally posted from Tales from Your Server. So this is what it says. My manager asked if I could work late last night because she needed an extra server to help with a bus of 110 8th graders returning from a field trip.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
I am never one to pass on an opportunity to make money, so of course I obliged.
True.
My coworkers and I began stalking early to prep for their arrival. When the kids arrived, I noticed that they were all so polite. Each time I would drop off drinks, rolls, or straws, I was met with smiles and thank yous. The kids didn't make much of a mess either. They also asked for trash bags to clean up some of what they had left. One little dude called me over and said, "Excuse me, here's a tip for you." I didn't want to hold on to it any longer, and he gave me $10 on his own. So sweet. Overall, my coworkers and I enjoyed working. So yeah, and then for the update, they said, "Wow, I'm so glad you all enjoyed this. Shout out to the parents, teachers, and positive influences in these lovely kids' lives."
How lucky.
That is lucky, but like it just
respectfully,
shows...
I know it's a positive show, but 8th graders are the worst.
That's usually a nightmare scenario.
Oh my gosh! Like I remember in high school, like we have our high school play, and then there'd be like we'd have one show for 8th graders from like a nearby school, and they were horrible during the shows, laughing at all the parts you should be laughing at, heckling and just being so annoying. So to have 100 sounds horrifying to me, but to have them be that nice and polite, like who are these kids? Who raised them? Where are they from?
But it also shows that like it's all about mindset going in and stuff. If you expect something to be bad, you know, it's kind of... Versus if you go in and you're like, it could be really bad, but it also could be good. You know, you never know because you don't know who the kids are. You don't know how you know, on top of things the teachers are. It could be a great experience like this. And that going in with it into an interaction and not having a preconception of how it's going to go can sometimes help that interaction to be more positive. Because kind of like self-fulfilling prophecy that if you go in thinking something's going to be bad, you're going to see reasons why it's bad.
Yeah. Or
versus if you go in,
you might be accidentally creating it or getting out the vibe that
you're already annoyed with them. Like I remember, and I might have already said this in the podcast, I'm sorry if I did, but there was one time where I was working at Olive Garden and there was a group of high school boys that came in right before closing and all of the servers were ticked because it came in like 10 minutes before kitchen close. And they had already started like closing down the stuff because they're like, no one's coming in or whatever. Because it was like a Thursday night. And there was like 6 guys that came in and they were like, you know, wearing backwards ball caps and they were kind of goofing off with each other. And the other server's like, I'm not taking this. I want to go home. And I was like, I'll take it. They were the nicest guys ever. They were super polite. They were super chill. They like bust all their own stuff. Like they would put all their food items like off to the side, all stacked super nice for me to grab. They each left me $20 tips. I was like, what? That's insane. You're high schoolers. And they were like, yeah, here you go. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
and
we don't pay bills, so.
I ended up with, it was crazy. I want to say I ended up with like, total, I mean, it wasn't all of them, they did 20, but like collectively for the table I got like $80 in tips, which was like unheard of. Even from like a regular table I was like, what? It was just super nice and they were super chill and I ended up being like, well, I'm very glad that I stayed and to that table and went into it with a good headset and was nice to them and stuff. And like, yeah, it worked out really well. So just do your best to go in, even if like stereotype is that it's going to be rough. If you go in with a positive mindset, you might be happily surprised.
Or even if you've had a bad experience in the past, try to approach
you never
it with
know.
Most positive.
And same, even if it's like a customer that is known to have maybe a bad attitude, you never know. It could go positive the next time because there were a couple times like that too, where we had a customer that came in and every time she came in, she was always a pill. Everything was always a nightmare scenario for her, no matter what you did. And she would just get very upset about everything. But there was one time that she came in and I was like, okay, I'm just going to be polite. I'm just going to be nice. And hopefully this one will go well. And she came up to me and she was just super nice that day. And she was like, yeah, I just feel like lately I've been so stressed and stuff and blah, 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 blah. And she was just super nice. And then it was a great interaction. And I was like, oh, maybe this lady was just having a really rough few months and that's why every time she came in she was, being kind of rude to my employees here, you know what I mean, including myself. So you never know. Go into with an interaction with a positive mindset and it might end up better than you think. So yeah, it's a good example of that.
Rewire your thinking and going with the best of intentions and the hope that it could all be just fine or go great.
Exactly. This next story comes to the subreddit Today I Am Happy, and it is titled Today I Am Happy Because I Had a Wonderful Interaction with a Homeless Man. Here we go. Where I live, there is one really busy intersection that always has at least 2 homeless people combing for food and stuff. And most of them you can tell are fakers looking for money and pity. Dogs, phones, new clothes, etc. But today was different. This guy was obviously in pain. He was hunched over a little bit and limped really slowly. He looked pretty elderly, and when he spoke, it was very heavy and slow as if it were a task. I always have food on me, specifically because I feel bad for the homeless there, and today I had 2 fig bars. The car in front of me gave him a pastry, and you could tell he was pretty happy. His sign was pretty beat up, and all I could read was hungry, so I gave him one of my fig bars. He noticed what it was, and he perked up and began thanking me over and over, saying that pastries and fig bars were his favorite thing in the whole world. And so I gave him the other one that I had, and he looked at me as if he couldn't believe it. He said, "Thank you so much, man. I love fig bars. You have a blessed day. God bless you." And I got chills because he was so genuine and grateful. It made me so happy knowing that I had given someone who had nothing their favorite thing in the whole world. Yeah.
That's sweet.
Isn't that a cool story? Yeah. Just another example. We've had lots of them in this podcast of helping out people that are homeless and in a way that is easy to do, just giving them a fig bar, but could mean so much more to them. So very, very cool.
Their favorite thing in the whole world.
Yeah. All right, on to our news article here. This one comes from abcnews.go, and the title of it is Bookstore Owner Speaks Out After Book Brigade of 300 Goes Viral.
Book Brigade of 300.
Yeah, so if you ask, they will come. So there was an independent bookstore in Michigan, and they put out an open call saying that they needed to move thousands of books from one storefront to the other several blocks away that they were moving into. And they were worried it was going to take forever because, as we all know, moving books is really, really hard. Books weigh so much. Like, when we moved from our apartment to this house, we had so many heavy things, nothing compared to the box of books. I was so shocked. I was like, this is just books. Why is this box so incredibly heavy?
We move books from one room to the other.
They're so heavy. So anyways, it was going to be a huge endeavor. So anyways, the owner is Michelle Tuplin. She's the owner of Serendipity Books in Chelsea, Michigan. So she put out this call on April 13th, and about 300 community members ended up showing up. They formed two lines that stretched about a block from the former location to the new spot, and they would all just take a book and pass it down the line until they got all the books to the other store. So it took about less than 2 hours, it says. There were 9,100 books that they passed hand by hand.
And they did that in less than 2 hours?
They did it less than 2 hours because they had bought both children and adult volunteers who did this book brigade and did the lines of passing books one by one down the line until they got them all there. Isn't that awesome?
That's really impressive.
Yeah, so they took a video of this event, and it went viral on TikTok with over 1.6 million views in just 2 days. And a couple comments from people that apparently were at this event said, "We loved helping. What a great experience to be a part of. And I actually got goosebumps. What a lovely thing to be a part of." So a very cool community coming together to make what would have been a very hard thing to do an easier process and a lot of fun and a cool way to be able to engage with the community that clearly really cared about this bookstore, this, small bookstore that was being run in their community. So yeah,
working in local news all over the region and stuff, people love their local bookstores.
Yeah, that's what they were saying too.
Especially in smaller cities, smaller communities, bookstores
they hold like a special place in a lot of people's hearts, especially as a lot of things are now going more digital and stuff. There's just something a lot of people still really like the physical part of having a physical book, and so being able to foster those small little bookstores and stuff that
well, there's
are doing that.
There's a community aspect to it as well, because people will be like in the store like reaching for books, and a complete stranger might be like, "Oh, you should read this book. Like, I've read that book. That's great." Or like they'll exchange conversations about X, Y, or Z book.
Right. So yeah, the community coming together to be able to help this person be able to move their bookstore, I think is really, really cool. And with that, we will end today's podcast episode. Tune in next week for our next episode, which is going to be all about anonymous acts. So kind of like anonymous angels, like things where people were not expecting any sort of thank you or gratitude in return, but just did it out of the goodness of their hearts. So it's going to be a really cool episode.
Yeah, and if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button or leave a comment.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks so much for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your week.
And stay positive.